Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do this cluster V stitch, which is a lovely kind of shell stitch, and I'm going to show you two ways. Both are the no turn-in chain method, and one is with a foundation row and the other one is just with a chain row at the bottom. I'm showing you both of these anyway. But I've been asked recently what yarn this is because I used it in another tutorial, and I believe it was a Lion brand yarn that I bought some time ago to make a baby blanket, and it was just some that I had left over. But I do have one in my shop that is very similar, and it is this, the Stylecraft Colour Burst Double Knitting, and all of the colours are very, very similar. These are just a little brighter in the yellow, I think. That's the only thing I can see that's different. But it is a premium acrylic and polyamide. So I hope that helps if you still want to get hold of the yarn. As I say, it is in my shop. There is a link in the description box below for that. I do ship worldwide. All tariffs are included. And it's weight-based. So the lighter the package, the lighter the cost. So this is the chain method at the bottom, and this is the one with the small foundation. But as always for my stitch tutorials, if this is a standalone tutorial, the left-handed version will start when the right-handed finishes, and there'll be a timestamp in the description box for that. But I know many of you like to watch both for me, and I thank you very much for that. If it is part of a compilation, the left-handed will be separate. Okay, so just bear with me a second while I clear all this away and we can get started on how to do this. So remember, this is the no turn-in chain method, so the multiples are slightly different for mine than they are in traditional ones. Okay, and if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and if you could like, share and hype this video, really does help my channel. Okay, I'll just clear this away and we can get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do a really lovely sort of shell stitch. It's actually called the cluster V stitch, and mine is the no turn-in chain method. So I'm going to show you the multiple that you'll need for that and how to do it, and I'm going to show you in a couple of ways. So the first way is by just going straight into the foundation chain, and it's exactly the same multiple if you do that, or if you want to make a whole row of UK double crochets, which are single crochets in the US, because the first stitch that you go into, you're working in quite a bit and you're going to get a bigger loop. And if you don't mind that, then you can start with just your chain and then you can border it however you want. But I'm going to show you, it's exactly the same way. I'm going to show you how to do that. So we start with a slip knot on our hook, which you can do however you normally do your slip knots. And we're going to do a multiple of 3 plus 2 stitches. So if you're doing the stitch how it's shown by others, it's a multiple of 3 plus 4, but mine is 3 plus 2. So we're just going to chain in multiples of 3, and then we're going to add 2 once we've done that. So I'm going to pause the video because it will be a bit boring to watch me chaining, plus I'll lose count if I talk. So I'll come back to you once I have my swatch number of chains. Okay, so I've got my multiples of 3 and I'm just going to add 2. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to do 1 as normal and then 1, and I'm going to pull it so that it's smaller. And that's because I don't really want it sticking out the side being noticed, okay? So it's just a little bit tighter than all the others. Then I'm going to go into my first stitch. Now you can do it how I am. You can do it by going into the 2 loops, or you can go in the back bumps. It really doesn't matter however you want to do that. But I'm going to place 1 in every single stitch all the way along, okay? So we just went in the second chain, that little one counted as our first, and we're going to do 1 in every stitch, just nice and simple. Okay, so I shall pause it then and I'll come back to you once I have all of my UK double crochets. Remember, if I say double crochet and you work in American terms, you'll know that I mean your single crochet. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end. I'm just going to turn my work, no chain, and I'm going to go into this very first stitch with a UK stacked double crochet, which is a US stacked single crochet. And it's going to get me up to the height of a UK treble or a US double crochet. So I'm going to just insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Now in this left leg at the side, I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull up my loop, yarn over and pull through 2 of them. So I will show you with just the chain method at the end, if those of you who want to see that, okay? So I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and in my third one, I'm going to do a treble 2 together. So that is a double 2 together in the US. So there's my first, second, skip, skip, in the third one, and I'm going to pull up my loop. I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 and stop there. Go over again, back in, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 again. So I've started 2 stitches, but I didn't finish them. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 and chain 1. I'm going to go into the same stitch and do that all over again, exactly the same. So pull up my loop, pull through 2, round again, pull up my loop, through 2. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of them. So I have done, this is a cluster V stitch, and that's my first one. Skip 2 again and do the same in the third. So we just yarn over, pull through 2, yarn back round, in again, pull up my loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over and pull through 3, chain 1 and do another one in the same stitch. So that's our repeat then. We're going to skip 2 and do another cluster V stitch. So this is a really, really nice stitch for blankets, and I did a scarf on my channel. I think it was an infinity scarf, but it's such a lovely stitch for all of those things. It really is. So just nice and simple, all the way to the end, skip 2 and a cluster V stitch. So I'm going to pause it then, and I shall catch up with you once I get to the end of this row. So I'm all the way along and I just have 3 stitches remaining. So I'm going to skip 2, and in my last stitch, which was that little chain, I'm going to do my UK treble crochet all on its own. So we got the stack at the beginning and a UK treble at the end, or a US double, remember. So if I say treble crochet and you work in American terms, you'll know I mean your double. So I'm going to turn now, and this is the repeat, so every row will be the same as this one. So in that very first stitch, I'm going to do that stack again, because they've got different names in the US to UK. I'll just call it the stack. It makes it a lot simpler. Okay, so now we're going to work in the chain space in the middle of our V cluster, and we're going to place a V cluster in that same space. So there's my first, chain 1 and my second stitch, and then we're going to go over to the next one and do the same. It's such a good stitch for doing, you know, when you're watching TV and you want something and it works up quick and it looks really nice, and it's better than just a normal V-stitch. It's just kind of got a little bit more substance to it. So we're going to do that all the way along until we get to our last stitches. All right, so I shall pause it then, and I'll catch up with you once I get back to the other side again. Okay, made it all the way to the end, and I'm going to go into my last stitch, and you've got the lovely 2 loops at the top of this stitch to go into, just like any other stitch, which will keep your edge lovely and straight on this on both sides. Okay, so that's the repeat. We're going to turn our work and we're going to do the same thing in the next row, and every subsequent row will be the same. Okay, so we'll do this one together and then I will pause it and do a fair few and come back and show you what they look like. Nice and simple all the way along, exactly the same as we have. I think this is a really neat stitch as well. It looks so nice when you have quite a big project, and they're all so neat. Okay, I'm going to pause it then and I'll come back to you once we get to this end and we'll finish this row off together. Okay, so I'm at the end again and I've got those 2 loops at the top of my stitch there to go in with my last stitch of the row. So I'm going to pause it then and I'll do a bit more and come back and show you what it looks like with a nice large piece. So that is how it starts to look once you've got quite a bit done. So that's this method of just making your very first row a UK double, which is a single in the US. I'll show you exactly the same, only starting from just your chain row. Okay, so again, if I can get this to spin nicely without clunking, we just want a multiple of 3 plus 2. So you do your slip knot and multiples of 3. Okay, so I shall catch up with you once I've got my chain again. So multiples of 3 plus the 2 at the end, just as we did before. Okay, so I've got my multiples of 3 and I'm going to place my 2. So there's my first, my second one, which I'm going to make smaller. So this first one we're not going to go in, the one I've just made smaller, and in the second one I'm going to go in and do my stack exactly the same to get me up to the right height. Okay, I want my edges to be the same as before, so that's simple. So I'm going to skip the next one, skip the next one, and in the next stitch I'm going to place my cluster V stitch. Now you can go in the 2 loops of your chain if you want to, but it will make a larger bump in any case. It just will make a larger hole, bump. What am I talking about, bump? But it will kind of open that up just a bit anyway. So we've got our stack here at the end, we've got our cluster V, and we're going to skip 1, 2, and in the next one we're going to place our V's. You see how much easier it is when you have that first row made for you with the UK double crochets or singles in the US. It just makes it more of a solid foundation for you to work in, but you can work in this. So let's do the next one, skip, going through the 2 loops, and we'll see it's going to still make that hole. Sometimes I find it confusing when I've gone in the 2 loops as to where the next one is. That's why I prefer going in the 1. But you see, it still makes a larger hole, makes no difference, just in the wrong place. So I'm going to undo that. It doesn't really matter which one you go in, but I want it to look consistent. Okay, so I'm going to skip 2, go in that 3rd one and place my cluster V stitch. Okay, nice and simple all the way along, skipping 2 chains and doing our cluster V in the next one. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then and I shall catch up with you when I've got just a few stitches remaining at the end of my chain. Okay, so I've just got my 3 stitches remaining at the end, skip my 2 and do my last one, my last UK treble crochet in that end stitch. So now our second row and is our repeat row, just the same as before, and it is the same as it was with the other way. Okay, so we're going to do the stack at the beginning and we're going to find our chain space, and then our clusters will go into the chain spaces of our clusters. of the row below, and we will just carry on now exactly the same as we did before. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video and I'll catch up with you once I've got a fair bit of this done and we can have a look at the difference between the two. Okay, so I'm just going to pause it then. I'll catch up with you once I've done a bit more. So I've done a few rows, 5 altogether, so you can see now how that looks. It kind of evens out quite well at the bottom. You still get a little bit of a bigger hole there, but it's not too bad. But that's what it looks like with the variegated, with just the chain to start. Or you have, this is how it looks with the solid colour and just having the foundation of that one row to start with there. This yarn is slightly thicker as well. It's both DK weight yarns, but this one is slightly thicker in itself anyway. But that's how we do it, and I hope you like that. So if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. If you can like, share and hype this video, it really does help my channel. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye for now. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks, Tracy here. And this is the slanted shell stitch, and I really like the texture of it, and I also like the fact that it is reversible. You obviously get the first row will look kind of back to front, but the actual stitch itself is great for shawls or blankets. It's a nice reversible stitch, so I'm going to show you how to do it. It's not difficult, so just bear with me a second while I pause the video then and I get set up with my yarn and my hook. Okay, so I'm using this, it's Boho Spirit in the colour of Harmony, and I got it in my shop, hobbyrocks.co.uk. It's classed as a 4-weight, but it is quite a thin one. It's very, very similar to Red Heart Unforgettable. In fact, it's the same. This particular Harmony, I've got both yarns and they're identical. So you need a scissors and a darning needle if you're going to work ends in. So for this, it is a multiple of 5 plus 3. So you just make a slip knot any way that you normally do, and we're going to do a chain of multiples of 5 plus 3. So chaining is simply just yarning over and pulling through. Now we don't want them to be tight, but we don't want them to be loose either. I really love the way this yarn works up and the stitch definition that you get. You can see how lovely this yarn is when you work with it. It does have a slight little fuzz to it, but that kind of makes it a little bit thicker than it looks. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video because it will be a little boring to watch me do these. Plus I have to count, and my counting could put you off. So I'm going to pause this then, and I'll come back to you once I've got my swatch multiple. Okay, so I have my multiple, and I've done 33, so that's multiples of 5 to 30 and then the 3. So in the second chain from the hook, so this is the loop on the hook which doesn't count. There's my first stitch and this is my second. I'm not going to do the back bumps or anything artistic. I'm just going to simply go in and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both those loops, and that is a UK double crochet. So you just go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both of them. In the US that's called a single crochet, and we call that in the UK a double crochet. So if I say double crochet and you work in American terms, you'll know that I mean you're single. Okay, so we're just going to place 1 in every single stitch. It's very difficult with the camera in the way, but we're going to place 1 in every single stitch all the way to the end. Nice and simple, and again a tad boring to watch me do that. So I shall pause this video then and catch up with you once I've split that yarn. I'll catch up with you once I get to the beginning. It's because it is a roving yarn and it's a little bit fuzzy at that point. Okay, all right then, so I'm just going to pause it. I'll come back to you once I've done my foundation row. Okay, so I've made it all the way along, and there we go. It does look really, really nice in this yarn, but this does curl because it is just a row of UK double crochets. So now we're going to turn our work, and in the first stitch I'm going to do the stack double crochet UK, which is a stack single in the US. So in my very first stitch I'm just going to insert my hook and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of those just like I have been doing. No chaining, don't need a chain. And then in this post on this side we're going to insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of those, and that gets us up to the height of a UK treble crochet, which is a double crochet in the US. And if you look to the side of it, you'll see it's worth 2 chains there. Bear with me one moment. Sorry, I had a knock at the door. So we're now going to skip 2. So we've got our first stitch. We're going to skip 1, 2, and in the third we're going to place 3 UK treble crochets. So that is a double in the US, so we're just going to pull through 2 and through 2, yarn over, go back in the same stitch and pull up our loop, through 2 and through 2. So we're going to place 3 in there, and we're going to chain 1 and do another one in the same space, and we're going to skip 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the 5th we're going to do the same thing all over again. So 3 UK treble crochets. So if I say treble crochet and you work in the US terms, you'll know I mean double crochets for you. Chain 1 and 1 more in the same space. Skip 1, 2, 3, 4. In the 5th, we're going to do that all over again. 1, 2, 3, chain 1 and another. Okay, so repeat that all the way to the end of the row. Once you've got your last 3 stitches, I'm going to pause the video and I'll come back to you. Okay, so now I have my last 3 stitches, and I'm just going to find that last one and do 1 UK treble in that last stitch. Okay, so this is how it's looking. Turn our work. Okay, so we're going to do a stack into this first stitch. We'll call it the stack rather than going stack double crochet, stack single. Now what we're going to do is this one that's on its own here, we are going to front post around it. So we are going to go from this side around it, and so the whole stitch is on our hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull up our loop and complete our treble. So that is a front post treble crochet. Now in the chain space next to it, we're going to do exactly the same as we have done here. So that's 3 UK treble crochets, chain 1, chain 1 and another one. Okay, so now we're just going to ignore this cluster. We're going to come straight over here and front post around that one all on its own. And then in the chain space next to it, we're going to make our 3 UK treble crochets, chain 1 and the one on its own. And we're making this really nice texture. We're going to go, ignore this, go straight over to the next and front post around that first stitch. In the chain space, we're going to make our cluster of 3, chain 1 and 1 on its own. I'm going to do that all the way to the end of the row. So I shall pause the video then, and I'll catch up with you when I'm on my very last one. Okay, so I have now completed my last one, and we're just going to skip over here and go into our very last stitch and make a UK treble crochet. So we're going to turn the work, and in our first stitch, which is the one we just worked, we're going to place a stacked UK double crochet or US single. Just how we're going to start every single row from now on. Okay, so now we're going to take our first stitch and we're going to front post around that one on its own, and in the chain space next to it place our 3 UK treble crochets, 1, 2 and 3, chain 1 and 1 more in there. So now we are going to skip over our shell cluster and also this front post that we did from the previous round. We're going to go straight over here to our next and front post in that first stitch, and then in the chain space we're going to make our cluster, and every row that we do now will be the same as this one. It's just a case of repeating this one row. Okay, so we're going to skip over this whole cluster and this one, which is the previous row's front post, and we're going to front post around that one on its own, and then make our cluster in the chain space next to it, just the same as we have done with our 3, chain 1 and 1 more stitch, and then straight over to the next, and 3 in there. We'll have a look in a sec and we'll see how it's growing. Straight over to the next one. Does seem like a lot to skip, but we're putting all our stitches together, so it does work out. I love this yarn. It's just such a mermaid collection of colours. It's so pretty. Incidentally, in the description box below you'll find a link to my shop and a voucher code if you wanted to get hold of this yarn, and I do ship worldwide. Oops, split that one. It's a piece of fluff putting me off, but we just crocheted over it. So this would look absolutely beautiful, I think, as a scarf if I just carried on. And okay, so now we're just going to skip over, and in our last stitch, which is lovely, when we do the stack we get these lovely 2 loops to go into, and we'll stop and take a look. So this is how it's growing, and that's the right side obviously, because this is our foundation row and that's the reverse of it, so it looks better from this side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause the video, make a few more rows, and so you can see a nice big expanse of it. I'll come back to you once I've done that. Okay, so I've done a few rows then, and I really like this stitch. I think it's got such potential. If I just take that out, you can see how much texture there is in that. So if this was a wrap or a scarf, it would be great because you can really see it's reversible, or a blanket, just perfect. And if you're making things like scrubbies and stuff, it's got great texture for that as well. So that's it. It's nice and easy, and I hope you like that one. So don't forget, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'll see you guys on the next one. Welcome back to Crochet Rocks. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do the solid shell stitch and a few different variations with different colours, how you can make it work with just changing colour. So a note on this tutorial, if it's a standalone tutorial, the left-handed version will start when this one finishes. There'll be a timestamp in the description box for that. but I know many of you like to watch both for me, and I really do appreciate that. If it's a compilation, then the left-handed one will be separate. So you can use any weight of yarn you want for this. I have a DK, and I also have a 4mm crochet hook. So to get started, we're just going to make a slip knot, and we need to have a multiple of 6 chains plus 1. So that's just yarning over and pulling through. Now we don't want them tight, okay? We don't want them mega loose, but we just don't want them tight. Okay, so it's going to be boring watching me chaining, so I'm going to just pause the video for a second while I get my amount together for a swatch. Okay, so we're going to skip 3 chains. So there's the first one, second, third. Now in the fourth, we're going to do a UK treble, which is a double crochet in the US. So we yarn over, go in, pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So that's a UK treble. This here does count as a stitch. Also, if you hear me say UK treble crochet or treble crochet, you'll know I mean the double crochet if you work in US terms. It's easier to say that than to just keep saying it all the way through. But when I say treble, I don't mean the one where you yarn over twice. Okay, you just yarn over once. So we want to do another UK treble in the same space. Okay, so we're going to skip 2 stitches, and we're going to do a UK double crochet, which is a single in the US. So if I say double and you work in US terms, you'll know that I mean your single. We're going to skip 2, and we're going to place 5 UK treble crochets in that next chain. So if you hold on to it, just a little tip here, if you hold on to that, that loop doesn't get bigger and bigger and bigger as you do this. It will get bigger because you've put 5 stitches in there, but it won't get crazy big. Now we're going to skip 2, and in the third one, we're going to do the UK double crochet again. So that is our repeat. This is half a shell. We've anchored it down there, and we've got a full shell. So now we've anchored it down, we'll skip 2 and place 5 in the next one. So that's our repeat. We're going to skip 2, we're going to do the UK double crochet in the next stitch, we're going to skip 2 and place 5, skip 2 and do the UK double crochet. And we're going to do this all the way to the end. When you've got your last 2 stitches, I'll come back and show you what to do next. At the end of the row, once you've done your last shell, if you don't have 3 chains remaining, then just check that sometimes this didn't do it. You can quite clearly see the next chain, but I noticed when I did this one, that chain after it was very small and it could have been missed. So just check back that you've actually gone into the right stitches. So we're going to skip 2 and we're going to do the UK double crochet in the last stitch. So for this particular part of the tutorial, I'm going to change colour after every 2 rows. I'll show you a different variation a bit later. So we're turning our work, and the first stitch is going to be a stacked double crochet, which is a UK term, stack single crochet for the US. So we just insert and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of them. Then you'll see this leg on the left side. We just insert a hook, yarn over and pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through both of them. So we're going to do 2 more UK treble crochets in that same stitch. So we're starting every single row with half a shell, and we'll end every single row with the UK double crochet. Okay, so now we want the third, and it's usually, I mean, you can see it's right there at the top, but if you have to, 1, 2 and 3, and that's where we're going to place our double crochet. And then in this double crochet between our shells, we're going to do the 5 UK trebles. And in the top stitch, you can see it there. If not, just count 3. And now we're just doing the opposite of what we did in the previous row. Okay, we're going to repeat that all the way to the end, and I shall catch up with you once I get to the end of this row. At the end of the row, we just need to do a slip stitch into the top of our, not slip stitch, a UK double crochet into the top of our chain. But as I said, I'm going to, I need my scissors for this. I found this pair will do. It might be a little bit blunt, they're old. Okay, and I'm going to bring in a new colour. So as it's just a swatch, I'm not going to bother to secure that as I normally would. But a little tip for you, if you bring this yarn forward when you join and then join your new colour, I'm just going to do a chain and cinch that down. So now you can bring both of those around to work over them, and you don't get that kind of mess at the end. Okay, so our first stitch is the stack. I'm going to work over them for this bit, just the same as before, and 2 more in that first stitch, half of our shell. Just going to drop those tails now and do my UK double crochet in that top, or the third one along. 5 in our previous rows, UK double. So you will always see one row with the back of the stitch. It kind of gives it a bit of definition, but if you really don't like that, then you could just start at the beginning of every row to get them this way round. But I kind of like the definition that this gives. It's more of a kind of a bubbly definition. So we're going to repeat that all the way along. 5 UK treble crochets in the double crochets, and then in the middle stitch of our shell, our UK double crochet. Okay, so I shall pause it then, and I'll come back to you once I get to the end of the row. At the end of the row, you just need to do your UK double, but we've got 2 loops now to go into of that stack, which is one of the real excellent reasons to do it. Okay, so now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to do the same again along this, because we're changing colour every 2 rows at the moment for this one. So the stack and 2. This is our repeat row from this moment on. They are all going to be the same in terms of the stitches and what we do. So we're just going to go all the way to the end of this row doing exactly the same thing, which would be boring to just watch me do that over and over again. So I will pause the video and come back to you once I have got to the end of this row. At the end of the row, we're just going to finish off by going into the 2 loops there with our stack and bringing in another new colour, which is, don't forget to, I'm going to snip this, leave a little tail, and if you bring that to the front, then that doesn't leave that little bump of colour. So I'm going to do some pink this time. So I'm going to join it. I will do just my chain and cinch it down so it doesn't travel. Bring those to the front and then do my stack. I just need to give these a little tug so that they disappear. And then my 2 UK treble crochets over that tail. And I know they're not secure, but as I said, this is just a swatch. I will cut them off. just so that they don't get in the way, as they will mount up. Okay, so we're just going to do the same again, 2 rows with this colour. Okay, and you've seen how we do that now. So I will pause the video for you, and I'll come back to you once I've done my second row in this colour. Okay, so I'm going to do my last 2 rows to show you what it's like with 2 colours, because I think you need a little bit of, I nearly forgot to bring this in the front. Easier said than done when you're all thumbs. And bring in my new colour, which is this really pretty yellow. Okay, so I'm going to give that a little pull so it doesn't get an elongated last stitch. And do my stack, working over that tail, or those tails, with my new colour. This is beautiful, this yarn. It's got a lovely sheen. So it does have a little bit of an open quality though, so it might split, but we'll just have to see. Give that a tug and my end disappears because it's just the way I join my yarn. Get rid of those for now. And I'm going to do 2 rows in this yellow just to give you a good idea of how this looks. Changing colour every 2 rows, so we need a little bit to judge it. And then I'll come back to you and show you what it looks like when we change colour in a different way. Okay, so I'm going to pause it now. I'll come back to you once I've got my 2 rows. So that's how this looks when you change colour every 2 rows. It's got a kind of a chevron look to it, and it is quite textured, and I really like that. But it does look quite a lot different if you change colour every row. So with that in mind, I have started exactly the same way. I did my very first chain and my first row, and I'm just about to finish this row. So I'm going to snip, if I find the scissors, that off, bring in the yellow for now, because those are the ones that I have set up already on the genie. So get off tail, don't need that one. Just going to bring that in front like I have been. I want to see, I don't want it to be loose. And bring in my new colour. It's just getting a bit confusing with that tail there. So this has got a little bit big, so I'll give that a tug just to bring that back down. Okay, so just the same, I'm going to do my stack in my first stitch and over those tails, and do my 2 UK treble crochets in my first one. So I give that a little pull, and again just going to snip them off because it is just a swatch. And get rid of the tails, there's too many otherwise, and just like that row it was going to get in the way. Okay, so again we're just going to go into the 3rd one along and do our UK double, and then in the double crochet we're going to put the 5 UK treble crochets. And then anchor that down again. So I'm going to pause it then, and I'll catch up with you once I get to the end of this particular row, and we'll change colour again. At the end of this row we just need to go into the top of the chain, bring that forward, and bring in this lovely peach colour. Doesn't look that much of a difference in colour, but once we get going it might. Okay, so we're going to do the stack. Whoops. Bit of a splitty yarn, I think, this one. Beautiful colour, though. And our 2 UK trebles to start this row. Give them a tug, and then I'll ignore them for now, cut them off in a minute, and just start this new colour. Go all the way to the end. So what I'm going to do, because you know how I'm doing this stitch, I'm going to pause it and I'll come back to you once I've got quite a few colours, and you can have a look and see how this works out with all of the colours. But as you can see, it really is quite effective when you do it with the different colours. I'll pause the video then. I'll come back to you after I've done a bit more of the swatch. Okay, so what I did, I chose the 5 colours and then repeated them. So you can see what it looks like if you change colour every single row. I think it looks really nice. So what I did was chose 5 colours so that when I do the pink row the right way, the next time I do the pink row, it's at the wrong way, and vice versa, all the other stitches. So you could get a good idea of how you can manipulate it then. So if you wanted them always to be the same, you could choose 2, 4 or 6 colours. If you wanted them to alternate, then obviously an odd number of stitches. But that's how it looks with changing colour every round. This was how it looked doing it every 2 rows. Said round, didn't I? Then I wanted to show you how it looks if you're just using 2 colours and you change every 2 rows, which is very nice, but obviously it gives you a stripy sort of chevron as well as the bumpy kind of texture, which looks really cute. And then I thought, right, I'm going to do another little experiment and show you. So this is what it looks like changing colour every single row if you choose. This is a sparkly yarn, and it's not something I had left over from Christmas. But I also wanted to see how it would look if I started it. So if I wanted to make a blanket or a shawl or scarf, and I wanted it to have a different sort of straight edge. I know you can always go back, you know, the other way and make that straighter, but I wanted to see what it would look like without the foundation chain row, or you know, the foundation row being the chain, because it does make the holes bigger. So I worked out then, if you do a multiple of 6 plus 2, then you will get the same sort of effect, but every other row will start differently and end differently. So whereas before we always started with the 3 UK trebles, we will start with the 3 UK trebles, but the next row will start with the UK double and then go in. So it works out a little bit different to doing it this way, but that is how you can get a nice straighter edge to work from. So if you wanted to edge a blanket, you've already got a nice edge to do that. But of course your first stitch will be the wrong way round. If you wanted it to be this way round, where your first shell row is the right way, you'd have to do 2 rows of UK double crochets to get that to be this way round. But I quite like it as it is. I think it looks much nicer that way. It's got a lot of texture. I don't know if you can see the sparkle, but it is pretty cute. It was some Christmas yarn I had left over. But I quite like this. So this is a chain of 6 plus 2. You go into the second one from the hook and do a UK double all the way to the end, and that is simple as that. Then you just follow it as you would by putting your stack, your 2 trebles, skip 2, do your UK double crochet, skip 2, do your shell, and otherwise it's exactly the same, but it gives you this nice kind of straight flat edge, which makes it different. But I really like all of them, to be honest. I like changing colour every row. This looks, if it was more pastel-y, it would look different again, but I chose these bold colours because the others were all pastel. Okay, so that's how you do all of these variations. I hope you like that. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and hopefully you'll get informed when new videos pop up. Also, if you could like and share and hype this video, it really does help my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye for now. This stitch was a favourite of my mum's. It's a vintage stitch and it's a shells and V's, but she did several, but this one was one of her favourites for making blankets, shawls, anything really, garments. She used to make this a lot. So I've kind of modified it because I want the start to have a solid foundation row. So this is made with multiples of 4 plus 2, okay? But before I do that, I just want to say that if this is a standalone stitch tutorial, the left-handed version will start when the right-handed finishes. If it's part of a compilation, they will be separate. In the description box, if it contains the left-handed tutorial as well, there'll be a timestamp. But I know a lot of you like to watch both for me, and I thank you very much for that. So we're just going to yarn over and pull through, and we're going to make a chain that's not tight. We don't want a tight chain on this, and it's multiples of 4 plus 2. And that would be a bit boring to watch me do that, so I'm going to pause it and I'll come back to you when I have a swatch size sample. So here we are, I've got my chains, and the last two I didn't do quite as baggy as these, because this is how that one there is my turning chain. So in the second one from the hook, so this one is the first and this is the second, I'm just going to make a UK double crochet by pulling up a loop and going through both. So going into the chain, pulling up a loop, yarning over and going through both. So I'm going to do that in every single stitch, every single chain, all the way along to the end. So that could be just a little bit boring to watch, and so I'm going to pause the video and I'll catch up with you once I've got to the end. So we've got our first foundation kind of row to keep it nice and straight. So the first stitch here, I'm not going to do any turning chain, but I am going to do a stack. So I'm going to get that tail out of the way. So what I'm going to do is insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of those, and then in this left kind of leg I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of them, and I'm going to chain 1. So now I'm going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and in this fourth one I'm going to make a V-stitch, but it's got a little bit different to most V-stitch. So I'm going to make a UK treble, so that's yarning over into the stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and now we're going to chain 2. And we're going to do another one in there. So that is our V-stitch, and it has 2 chains in between and 1 chain after. Skip 3. In the fourth, we're going to do that V-stitch again. And 1 chain. You must always remember that chain, otherwise it does pucker quite a bit. Excuse me, a little bit of asthma today. 1, 2, 3, and in the fourth with our V-stitch. And we need 2 chains in between this V-stitch. Traditionally I usually just do the 1. Don't forget the chain after. 1, 2, 3 in the next one. And a V-stitch, 1 chain. I'm nearly at the end, so I might as well stick with you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another V-stitch. So now we've reached the end. And we're going to skip 1, 2, 3, and in the last stitch we're going to try and get my 2 loops. There we are. I'm going to do just a UK treble crochet, which, as we know, is a double crochet in the US. So if I say treble, it's not the one where you yarn over twice. It's a UK treble, meaning your double crochet if you work in American terms. So now we're going to turn. Excuse me, I just need to cough. That's better. Sorry about that. So now we're going to do that stack again in that very first stitch. Exactly as we did in the last round. We're not going to chain. We're going to do 3 UK treble crochets in this V. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to chain 1 and do 3 more. in that same V-stitch. This is why we needed 2 chain, because there's quite a lot going in to that V-stitch. No chain. We're going to go straight to the next one and do the same thing. Chain 1 in the middle and another 3. Oops, no chain after, straight into the next one. Okay, we'll do this one and then we'll stop and have a look. So it's like doing granny square corners in each V-stitch. It's exactly what it is. Okay, so as you can see, that is just nice. It's not puckering or anything, it's just pretty. So I'm going to pause it then, and well, I might as well stay with you actually, because I've only got 2 left, so there's no point. It's only a small swatch. So this round is just doing our shells with 1 chain in between the 3s, but no chaining in between the actual shells. Last one. Almost there. After these, so now I know it looks like it's leaning over, but this is our stack, and these 2 loops here are the top of that. You can always pop stitch marker in there if you want to, until you're used to seeing it. We're just going to do 1 in that end. So we've got 1 at either end of our row. Excuse me, I'm taking my inhaler, but it's still not really helping. So in this first one, we're going to do the stack. We're going to do that. We'll start every single row. Chain 1. Now we're going to go into the center of our shell and do that V-stitch with 2 chain in between, just as before, and chain 1 after. Go straight over, skipping all of this to the next and making the V-stitch and chain 1. Skip over. This is a very quick, nice and quick row, this one. Always remember that chain. It's very important because there's a lot of stitches and it does pucker and pull if you don't have that there. Okay, last one. Kept doubting them whether I did that chain. So here we have the 2 loops of our stack. I'm going to go into there and do my last stitch, and that kind of pulls it together. So there we are. We now need to repeat this row in the next row, and to do that we'll do another row together. We'll start with the stack. Remember, no chaining in this row, just 3. Well, no chain in between, should I say, and then a chain and then 3. You can do it without a chain. You can just place your stitch in between the 3rd and 4th without the, but I think it's fine just to do the chain. It makes it simpler. Okay, so 3, 1 chain and 3 in every V all the way to the end. If I go ahead of you, then just pause me. If you go ahead of me, then just pause me. It's not a very big swatch, so I'll stick with you. So when you get to the end of this row, you'll notice something. I do apologise. And we're nearly there, and I'll show you what I mean. last V. Okay, nearly there. We're going to do our last one in the top of our stack there. And pull this out. So it's not massively noticeable, but on this row it fans out a little bit, and on this V row it pulls it back in. So it's very important that you have these chains, otherwise it doesn't do that, it just puckers and doesn't look particularly nice at all. But when it comes to the end and you want to square it off, if you were going to do the same at this end, then you can. You can either leave it with shells or you can square it off. So what I do here, is a chain one and cinch it really low. And in this first stitch, I'm going to do a UK half treble. So I've got my 3 loops and I pull through them all. Okay, and then I do the same in the second one. And then I'm going to do 1, 2, I'm going to skip over the chain, 3 and 4, and then I'm going to do half treble, and then the double crochets, skipping over the chain, and then into the next 2, and then 2 half treble crochets, which are half doubles in the US, but it's nice and easy to remember that because it both says half. Okay, so that's 2 before the chain, ignore the chain, and 2 after, and then 2 half treble crochets, and then 2 UK double crochets, skip over the chain, 2 again. I probably might have actually looked nicer if we'd have ended off and gone the other way, and I'll show you why in a second. Skip over that chain, that's 1 and 2, last 2 stitches have half treble crochet. Okay, so this is now, if I had ended off at the end of that row and then you'd gone this way, it would have been this way round, like this, but to do it that way. But that's one way of straightening it off, but it's not the only way. You can do it just by chaining if you want to. So we'd do our first stitch exactly the same, and then we can chain 2, and then in the middle between our in the middle of our shell, we just do a single crochet, chain 2, and then we'll do half treble in that one, chain 2, and then in the middle a UK double crochet, chain 2 in the middle here, just to kind of anchor it, chain 2, and in the middle, and then you've kind of squared it off. We'll carry on all the way to the end. Nice and easy. You're just making it straighter. Okay, so here we are. Chain 2, whoops, and then in the last stitch with half treble. So as you can see, we've straightened that off, and all we've got to do now is a row of UK double crochets in this stitch. So we can start by doing the first one. Not going to bother chaining, I never do anymore, only on the half treble, and there's a reason for that. So I'm going to do 2 in this space, and then 1 in the half treble, double crochet, getting confused in my own stitches, 1 and 2, and then 1 in the post, and then 2 in the space, and you're just doing the same as you did down here, squaring that off. So there's a couple of ways that you can do that. Whoops. Oops. It's very slippery yarn. It's lovely yarn, but it is very silky, slippery, and so is this hook. So, perfect storm with a camera in between. So we'll just carry on all the way to the end. We might as well, because it's not a very big swatch. I know it's a tad boring just watching me crochet it. Okay, that one's tight. I'm not sure I can get in there. Not easily. Going that way. Almost there now. I think this is a better way to square it off than the other way. The other way is a little more solid. But yeah, there are two ways, depending on what you're making and what look you want, really. So in the last 2 chain space, and then in the last stitch. And at least doing this way, you have finished on the right row. You don't have to end off, go back to the start. And that's how you kind of square them off. Okay, I hope you liked that one. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you can like, share and hype these videos, it really does help my channel. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye for now. Okay, so to get started on the arcade stitch, I have a 4.5mm crochet hook, 4.5. I have some darning needles and a pair of scissors. I have my Wool Genie set up with some Picasso, ice yarn Picasso in rainbow colours. And just a little note that for my stitch tutorials, the left-handed version will start just after the right-handed version if this is a standalone crochet tutorial. And there'll be a timestamp in the description box for that left-handed version. But if this is a compilation of stitches, there'll be a separate left-handed compilation. But this one anyway has a stitch multiple of 5 plus 2. So you need to make a slip knot in your usual way and do a stitch count of 5 plus 2. So for this I'm just going to do 32. So that's just simply just making a chain, and boring to watch, I know, and plus I will lose count if I count out loud, or try and, you'll lose count if I count out loud. So I'm going to pause it and I'll come back to you once I have my chain ready. Okay, I have made my chain. So all I'm going to do in the second stitch from the hook, so this is the loop, doesn't count, that's my first chain. And in my second, I'm just going to do a UK double crochet, which is simply pulling up a loop, yarning over and pulling through them both. And I do that in every single one all the way along. Just insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of them. Nice and simple all the way to the end, which would be very boring to watch me. So I'm going to pause the video then, and I'll catch up with you once I've got to the end of this row. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end, and I'm just going to turn my work. And in the first 2 stitches, I'm not going to bother chaining, don't need to. I'm going to place a UK double crochet in the first 2 stitches, just as we have been doing. So if I say double crochet and you work in US terms, you'll know I mean a single crochet for you guys. I'm going to do 3 chains, And I'm going to skip 2 stitches, skip that one, and in the next I'm going to place a UK double and in the next 2 as well, so that's 3. I'm going to chain 3 and I'm going to skip 2 and in the third place my 3 chains. Sorry, my crochet yarn, my yarn has got stuck. I mean, not my crochet, my yarn. Okay, I'm going to repeat this all the way to the end. Chain 3, skip 2, 3 UK double crochets. So I want you to carry on to the end of the row doing the same thing until you get to the last few stitches, and I will meet back with you and show you what to do next. Okay, so I'm almost at the end. I've got my last chain 3 to do. And then in my last 2 stitches, I'm just, as we did at the beginning, I'm going to place 2 UK double crochets, 1 in each of those stitches. So this is what we have. We've got these little archways. So this is the arcade stitch, and it's also known as the arch stitch for this reason. Okay, so in the first stitch, I'm going to do a chain and I'm going to cinch it down. And because this yarn is quite fluffy and I don't want it to sort of move about. And in this first stitch, I'm going to place a double crochet. And then in this chain space, I'm going to place 5 UK treble crochets, which remember are double crochets in the US. And now we have 3 UK double crochets here that we did in the previous row, and I'm going to go into the second one, so the middle one, with a UK double crochet. And we're going to do that all the way along, so we're going to make 5 into the next chain space. And then in the center of our 3, 1 UK double crochet. Okay, and that's what we're going to do all the way along. Place 5 in our chain spaces. Yarn doesn't want to come with me. It's because it's very fluffy and it gets caught on itself. Makes it hard to frog as well sometimes. So there's 5. And then in the center of our 3, 1 UK double crochet. Okay, carry on to the end of the row and I'll catch up with you and show you what we do at the end. Okay, so I've made it all the way to the end. I've done my last 5 and I'm going to go into my last stitch and make my final stitch, which is my UK double crochet, and I'm going to turn my work. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 chain and cinch it down, and in this first stitch I'm going to do a half treble crochet. Some people don't do this step, but I like to, and I'm going to chain 1. So now I'm going to skip this first one, and in the next 3, so basically it's the middle 3 of our 5, skipping the first, we're going to place a UK double crochet in each of those 3. So 1, 2 and 3. We're going to chain 3, and we're now going to skip this first one and do 3. 1, 2, my yarn's stuck again, it's because it's ultra fluffy, 3, and that's what we're going to do all the way along. Now what we're doing is we're making our arches kind of offset this time. So this was the foundation for our arch before, and now it's going to be in the gap between them, and this is how the pattern will work up. So rows 2 to 5 are the repeat. Okay, so I've done 3, skip the first one, and 1, 2 3. Chain 3. Okay, so repeat that all the way to the end. I'll catch up with you when we get to the last few stitches. Okay, so I'm almost at the end. Now what I'm going to do is chain 1, and in that very last stitch I'm going to do a half treble crochet, just as I did at the beginning of this row. Turn in my work. My very first stitch will be a stack. So what do I mean by that? I don't chain, I always do, this is kind of a no turning chain. So in my very first stitch that I've just come out of, I'm going to insert my hook, I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. It's very fluffy, this yarn, so I hope you can see. And I'm going to yarn over and pull through both of those. And in this one leg at the side here, just going to insert my hook into there. I'm going to yarn over, pull up another loop, yarn over and pull through both of them. So that's got me to the height of a UK treble crochet, and if you look at the side you can see 2 chains, but it is a wider stitch, not like 2 spindly little chains. It also gives you 2 loops to go into on the next row, so it's better than just having a chain. So now I'm going to, in this chain space here, I'm going to place 2 UK treble crochets. And in the center of my 3, I'm going to do a UK double crochet. And now we have our 3 chain space again. We're going to place 5 in there, 5 UK treble crochets in that space. And now we've got our 3 again. We're going to the center one and do our UK double crochet. So as you can see, we're now bridging that gap between. So we're going to place our 5 again. And in the center stitch, our UK double crochet. So carry on doing this all the way to the end of the row, and I will show you what to do once we get to our final few stitches. Okay, so I'm almost there now, done my 5. There's my 3, so I just need to do my last UK double crochet in that 3. Now I'm going to look for the chain space. I made a little chain space. I'm going to place 1, 2 in there, and then 1 in my very last stitch. Now sometimes people will tell you to place 3 in that chain space, but I like my edges to be uber neat, so it's just my way. Okay, so this is the first row, doesn't count. So the row 2, 3, 4 and 5 now form the pattern, okay? So we're going to turn our work and we're going to start row 2, which is our first row of the pattern. So we're going to make a UK double crochet in that very first stitch, and then we're going to, bear with me a second, I've got a parcel coming. Sorry about that, it wasn't even for me. So we've done our first one. We're going to place another UK double crochet in that second stitch. So we are now back to this first part of our pattern row. So we're going to chain 3, and then we're going to ignore the first one, go into the second one and place 1, 2, 3 double crochets, chain 3. We're going to do that all the way to the end again, not the first one but the middle 3 of our cluster of 5, and that's splitting the yarn a little bit there. Oops. So I'm going to pause the video then, and I'm going to get you to chain 3 to make these bridges between our clusters, and we'll place 3 UK double crochets in the middle 3 stitches of our 5. We'll pause it then, catch up with you once we get to the end, and I'll show you how we end this row. Okay, so I've got my last 3 chain, and I'm just going to place one in the last 2 stitches. And turn my work. So now we're just going to repeat the pattern from row 2 to 5. So 2, 3, 4, 5. This is row 2, so we're going to repeat row 3. So what we do now is we're going to make a UK double crochet in the first stitch, and then in our chain space we're going to do 5 UK treble crochets, just as we did on our first of these rows. And then in the middle one of our 3 we're going to place our UK double crochet, and then 5 UK trebles. Got quite a bit of yarn that I've pulled out there, stop it getting stuck. Now it's just going to keep encroaching as a big mass. Put it back again, and in the middle our UK double crochet, and then our 5. So I'm going to pause the video then. I'll catch up with you once we get to the end of this row and we can finish this row and start the next together. Okay, so we've got all the way to the end. I've just got to do my double crochet in my very last stitch and turn my work. So we're just going to keep repeating now. We're going to repeat this row here. So how we do that then, which was my half treble the first stitch. So I do a chain and cinch it down and do my half treble in the first stitch and my 1 chain, and then ignore the first one and do 1, 2, 3 in those middle 3 stitches, chain 3, ignore the first one and do 1, 2, 3, chain 3. That's nice and simple. So I shall pause it then and catch up with you once I get to the end of this row. Okay, so I've got the end of the row. I'm doing my chain 1 and just got to do my half treble crochet in that last stitch. Okay, turn my work, and my first stitch is my stack into that stitch there. And then in this first chain space, I do my first half a cluster, which will be the 2 UK treble crochets. And then in the middle of our 3, we're going to do our double crochet. And then in this chain space, we're going to place 5. So we've now done 2, well, once we finish this row, we'll have done 2 full completions of the pattern. In the middle stitch and 5. And our double crochet. If you can hear some strange noise, it's raining. Okay, I'm going to pause it then. I'll catch up with you at the end and we'll take a look and see how we go from here. Okay, so I'm at the end, and in my chain space there, I'm going to place 2 UK treble crochets and then 1 in the very last stitch. And we can pull our loop out and have a look. So what we're doing now then is repeating rows 2 to 5. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see that our arches are offset and it's very pretty. I really like this stitch. And you can do that for as many rows as you need if you were making a scarf, or you can do a big wide one for a blanket. It also looks pretty decent if you change colour, just play with the colours on this. It looks really, really nice. So that is my arcade stitch. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye for now.